Welcome back to Python scripting for GIS applications. This is a class at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and it's spring semester 2013. From last time, your assignment was to write a script tool that basically takes a user-specified input feature class and then automatically creates an output feature class in the same workspace. So here we'll use the get parameter as text to get our user-specified input feature class. And then I just use the arcpy.describe to create a description object. And then once we have that describe object, we can extract the path and we can extract the base name. And then once we have the base name, we can add new to it and then use the create feature class with our layer path and our layer name. And in this example, I'm going to output this new feature class as a polyline feature class. So we go to our own personal toolbox and we're going to add a script, and we could label this test script, whatever you want to label it, and then we'll store it in a relative path, and then next, and then we browse to our script file, which I called test.py, and then next, and then we'll have our input parameter. So the data type for that parameter will be feature layer. So feature layer, we're allowed to access the feature classes that are in the table of contents, or we can browse on the hard drive and find any feature class. And then let's filter this. So we'll filter our feature class and only display point feature classes, and then finish. Okay, and then we can run our script tool. So in this case, in my table of contents, I don't have any point feature classes, so we don't have a drop down, so we'll have to browse to some location that has some points. So here we have caribou locations in this geodatabase, and the geodatabase is sitting in a caribou locations folder. And then just OK, and the script executes in 2 seconds, and then we could look at the output from that script. So indeed, it does create a new feature class called caribou locations _ new, and it is a polyline feature type. Okay, in this session, I want to teach you how to work with fields. So I've already set my ArcPy environment workspace, and I've already created a string for my input feature class. So let's say I need to know what all the fields are in that input feature class. So I could create fields, some variable, and then ArcPy list fields. And then that would require a data set that we're talking about. So in this case, the data set will be in feature class, and then some wildcard. So here, let's take all the fields. So an asterisk would mean everything. So what that does is it creates this container, and it's a list of fields. Now, a field is an object. So the object will have properties such as field.name, field.type, field.editable, etc. So what we could do is we can loop through this list of our input fields and then print out some of the properties. So we could say for something in our list, print. For each field, it will have a property name, and print. For each field, it will have a property type, and for each field, it will have a property, is it editable? So then basically it loops through all the field objects in the list and then prints out the properties. So for example, my first field was object ID. The type was OID. It was not editable. The next field is shape, and its type is geometry, and we can edit shape. The next field, point date, its type is date, and true, we can edit it. and then point X double true, we can edit it. Point Y double true, we can edit it. Days small integer true, we can edit it. Okay, sometimes you might want to access just one specific field. So in that case, we could give it the name of the field. So in this case, it will be days. So that will return a list of all the fields named days from our feature class. And what we want to do is extract the first element of that list, and it will actually be the only element in that list. So that's index 0. And we'll call this day field object. So then if we looked at day field, it'll have properties, what's its name, and what's its type, and is it editable. Okay, so that's basically how we can work with fields. We get the field object, and then from that object, we can extract properties such as name and type. In script tools, we can access fields from an existing feature class. Okay, so here's our Python script that we'll have with our script tool, and what we'll have is an input feature class, and then from that input feature class, we'll have a string of fields, and that string of fields will be separated, the field names, and then separated using a semicolon. So then basically we can use the python.split function to split this string into a list, and then we'll have the list of field names that we can loop through, and then we'll use arcpy.addMessage to display those field names that are in that list. So we save our script, and then we'll create a test script tool. So add a script, and we'll label this list fields from existing feature class. You can label it whatever you want. Store relative path names, and then we'll browse to our script file, which I called fields.py. And then next, so it'll be just like before, input feature class, and that will be a feature layer. And then we could filter that if we want. So I'll filter it just to show points, lines, and polygons. And then our second one will be some display name fields, and the data type will be field. Now this is going to be what's new, is we're going to obtain that from our input feature class. So that's how it knows how to get those fields. And then also what's new is we're going to allow a multi-value. So don't just get one field, but get all the fields. And then we could filter. So filter these fields and only show short, long, float, double, and text and date. So don't show object ID, geometry, blob, raster, or XML fields. Okay, and then we can run our script tool. Okay, so we run our script tool, and we could either browse to some container containing a feature class, or we can use this drop down to get a list of all the feature classes in our active data frame. So we'll choose caribou locations, and then it finds all the fields associated with that feature class. And then we could say, well, let's look at this field, point X, and this field, days. And then OK. And it runs, and then it tells us that that's what's in that list of fields now, point X and days. Okay, so your assignment for our next video session is to modify this script tool that we had, which created a line feature class in the same workspace as this input point feature class, and then also allow the script tool to list the fields that are in this input feature class, and then any field that the user checks on, create those same fields in this output line feature class that was created from this script tool. And I'll go over the solution to that problem in the start of our next video session.